Well, good morning, Morro Bay. Today is Thursday, October 13th, and I would like to call to order the monthly meeting of the Tourism Business Improvement District. And now we'll establish a quorum of our board members here today. For the record, the time is 9:03 a.m. From my right to left, we have Taylor Newton, myself, Aaron Graves, Charlie Yates, and Maggie Giron. And a couple of very brief special announcements. We'd like to welcome to the group here Lori Kudza. She is the new Deputy City Manager. I was just speaking with Lori a few minutes ago. It's her 4th day, so she's getting oriented to our entire process. So welcome, Lori. And now I would like to open the microphone up to any public comment regarding items on the agenda. But before we start that, later on in the agenda, marketing update under Section 5, we will have discussions on the Merchants Association and Superbration. You're welcome to comment on that now or, of course, right before we discuss those items so it's more fresh in our memory. Entirely up to you. We just want to promote communication. So the microphone is open.
My name is Margaret Crockett, usually called Meg Crockett. I'm
Meg.
president of Pacific Wildlife Care, which is the organization that's putting on Superbration. I have another meeting that I have to go to, so I may not be able to linger until right before that discussion. I am here mostly to apologize for being late in turning in the appropriate paperwork for the grant that we had applied for. There was lots of snafus and miscommunication and misunderstandings about exactly what was required, and we should have been better in following up and saying, do you have what you need now? Is everything okay? And sometimes there was a delay in hearing back that, no, we don't. You still haven't sent us what we really need. So, we think Superbration is a great event and we'd like to continue to build it. We do have people coming from out of town, we'd like to expand that, but we do have people that come from LA and Fresno and Ventura and whatnot. I don't know how many, I know Taylor's very familiar with it because he's helped us out. His group helps us out in many ways, but it's, soup tasting. We have contests to see who does the best soup in various different categories. We have wine tasting. We have our animal ambassadors. We have, it's a fundraiser for Pacific Wildlife Care, and we, have our facility here, you may know, when we care for all the wildlife in the county that is either mammals or reptiles or birds. We don't do marine mammals because that's the Marine Mammal Center. So I don't know if there's any questions for me or any other comments, but I definitely want to apologize and hope there's a chance we could still get approved for the grant.
We understand, Meg. Thank you for your comment, and for those donating your time. We do realize it takes a lot of outside of your daily lives to put these events on, so thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, I'm Susan Stewart. I own Beads by the Bay on Morro Bay Boulevard and have been a resident of Morro Bay since 1988. I'm also president of the Merchants Association and also doing the Mea Culpa dance. I want to thank the TBID for the offer of extra advertising funds with mental marketing and apologize for the delay in returning the paperwork. When I initially picked it up, I mentioned that we didn't have a meeting until later in September and was under the impression that the deadline to return the papers wasn't too critical since our event wouldn't occur for 3 more months. That being said, we are very grateful for the offer of additional funds. Our holiday street fair, occurring the Sunday after Thanksgiving, ties in to the Home for the Holidays theme that promotes our entire community to visitors. The Sunday street fair keeps folks in town for another day and gives them something to do, encourages visitors, residents, and their relatives to support local businesses and nonprofits and experience more of what Morro Bay has to offer. Anything the city can do to promote the destination is a positive, and anything we can do to enhance the destination, either by providing activities or a better aesthetic experience, will hopefully attract more visitors, lead to extended stays and returning customers, and help sustain our businesses. The extra funding that was offered for promotion through mental marketing will allow us to use the rest of the grant funds to help with creating a more festive and engaging event. I would also like to give a plug for the Superbration event, which not only benefits a fabulous nonprofit organization, the Pacific Wildlife Care, but also offers the kind of gourmet food event that the city has shown interest in promoting through its support of the Avocado Festival's Evening in the Grove, as well as the Harbor Festival. Sunday events are a fabulous way to extend people's stay, and this one offers a great sampling of area restaurants and wineries. It combines the best of our city's Discover Your Better Nature branding with food, wildlife, and outdoor appreciation, and I urge you to do whatever you can to support and promote the event. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. And if you have any questions, I can be here for a little bit longer.
I actually do. And yeah, since you won't be here maybe when we're going over it, one question I had is, you not marked on your application that there will be 25 to 49% of the spectators are more than a 4-hour drive away. How do you measure that? Or I know you're anticipating that, but what is your gauge and how are you measuring that?
You know, a lot of that is anecdotal.
Okay.
So as a business that's right there in that area, I keep track of what people tell me. The vendors in the street do as well.
Okay.
The fair organizers go around to the vendors afterwards and say, how were your sales? Who were your customers? That sort of thing. So, you know, there's no real science to it,
Okay.
but for those folks who are collecting the information on the customers, maybe getting email addresses, that sort of thing, you can kind of gauge.
Yeah.
You know, I could probably tell you on any given day how many people in my shop were local, regional, or out of the area.
And do most of the, or many of the vendors come from out of the area, so they're definitely, or most of them
There's a
overnight
mix.
stays?
There is a mix. We do get a lot of folks who come from out of the area and are staying overnight somewhere in Morro Bay.
Okay.
Yeah, because they have to set up so early in the morning. We have some locals. We're really encouraging the local businesses to just have a presence out on the street if they can. And even getting folks with businesses from other parts of town, we offer them a discounted booth rate. We also have done a lot of outreach with the local nonprofits, and actually the last event, that was really successful for them in getting the word out about what they do. So it's kind of a win-win thing for a relatively small event.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Anything else?
I just want to say, one of the things that we do at the Inn at Morro Bay is that we gather data, and it's really important to get email capture and find out where they're coming from and why they're coming. And it's part of the script that we have to find out, you know, what's bringing you to the area. And we meet on a weekly basis and discuss what our trends are. Mm-hmm. Who's coming in? Are they coming in for the San Salvador? Are they coming in for Harborfest? Are they coming in just to relax? We've seen for the Superbration a number of reservations already coming in from out-of-town guests that come and love this event because it does give them a sampling of great food and wine and promotes a great foundation that is about our better nature here in Morro Bay. We've also heard that the street fair, I haven't gotten a great amount of reservations, but a few, and people are talking about it because it is a very interesting, fun, kind of a funky way to get out and do your Christmas shopping. And so it was really neat to hear that we had already seen a few.
Yeah, that's actually
pulling in.
Really cool because people, you know, that's a family holiday weekend. What I see, though, is a lot of folks come to Morro Bay to visit their families for Thanksgiving. And, you know, depending on your house size, like when my family comes, they can't stay in my house. It's not big enough. So they're in a hotel room.
I ask all my relatives to stay in a hotel.
There you go. Makes for better family life that way, I think. Yeah. So I'm pleased to hear that there are people who are already reserving. That's good news. Anything else? Thank you.
Doesn't look like it. Thank you, Susan.
Good morning, John Solar, resident Morro Bay. Hi, Taylor. And a business owner in Morro Bay. Just a couple of things that I just came to my mind this morning. I'm sorry I'm here with my shorts, but Wasn't planning on coming, thank you.
But John, behind the podium, we can't tell,
Okay, good.
so you're good.
I just want to make a couple comments regarding our year-to-date through August occupancy and our TOT collections. And I think this will lead to my next conversation that I'm going to have, is that I think having the city put out and go through the exercise of showing us where we are year-to-date in occupancy, where we are last year, where we were this year, I think it's really important to have that on an agenda item. And also included in the packet, and just so other hoteliers can see it and see what we're doing and where we are year to date, and so they can compare their occupancy compared to the city occupancy. You know, unfortunately for the month of July, we were down 1 point, which everybody says it's not a big deal. And in August, which is kind of alarming, we were down almost 6 points in occupancy. You know, and you know, you can say 1 point, John, that's not a big deal, but really that equates to about 600 people staying in our hotels for the month. That's 600 less people available to go out shopping in Morro Bay. That's 600 people less available to go out to dinner on a daily basis. And for the month of August, that was equate to 1,700 room nights. And you multiply that by 2 people to a room, that's almost 3,500 people that basically did not come to Morro Bay or stay in Morro Bay. Granted, we're going to use different things. August last year was Labor Day weekend. August this year was no Labor Day weekend. August this year was the fires. August last year was no fires. You know, I hate to be anal about this, but August this year, average temperature in the Central Valley was 60 degrees cooler than last year. We can all say that. But as a few of us are owners, I'd like you to say that to the bank when you're ready to make your payment. So it's a tough situation. My next comment is kind of related back to what I was saying should be on the agenda. You know, I don't know how you feel, but we really, on a weekly basis, maybe too much, used to get communication from the TBID office. What was going on, how many impressions there were about Morro Bay, what the county TBID was doing, what advertising opportunities we might have in the future, or any co-op advertisements and so forth. And since the city taking this over, unfortunately, the only thing I know that we get is on a monthly basis a phone call about, do you want to do any packages? Do you want to do anything for this? There's no email communication at all. Maybe weekly basis was too much. Maybe it should be every other week. Let's say once a month. But I think that communication needs to go out to the hotels, especially the stakeholders, to let them know what's available for them for the amount of money they're putting in. And I'm not here beating up on the staff or anything, but I have to say, Merchants Association puts out more information on what's going on in the city than the TBID does. And it costs us $35 a year to be a member versus $900,000 to be a member of this organization. So I really encourage you as the board pushing the staff to put out information and letting us know what's going on in the community and what's available for us for the amount of money that we're spending. With that, I thank you for your time, and thank you for all the volunteers that were here. I know what it takes to be a volunteer, so I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment, John. Are there any further public comment? Seeing no further public comment, we'll close that session and move into action item 3 on the agenda, which is a review of the August 2016 TOT report. Jennifer, you have that information to discuss with us?
Good morning. I actually emailed it to you. If you guys can pull it up, I just sent it over to you again. It is down for August, which was concerning to me, and like John just mentioned, the fires were a really difficult thing. We heard over and over people saying they were canceling their trips to Hearst Castle, and therefore they were canceling coming in here because they don't realize the proximity that we're an hour south from Hearst Castle. So I think it unfortunately really affected us. Also with the weather, like John mentioned, the lower temperature in the valley was really difficult. We saw some pretty good gains in July with reaching out to the valley, going after their heavy weather. They were running over 102 daily, and we were getting great response on that. In August, we just did not have that weather change over there, so that was really unfortunate as well. One of the things that I'm concerned about on a go forward is the vacation rentals and the amount that they're impacting the hotels, and we need to figure out a way to resolve that. I'm a little concerned about some of the smaller hotels that have 2 rooms or 4 rooms, and are they going to look to possibly switch over to be vacation rentals instead of hotels because of the cost of doing business as a hotel? So I think on a long-term basis, we need to probably put some thought together on how to really address these concerns with vacation rentals and try to figure out a better way to help the hotels have better business here.
Okay, thank you for that. And I will actually, a bit of an extension of that thought right there. Yesterday at the San Luis Obispo City TBID meeting, there was a presentation there from the city, and they're trying to work on aggressive enforcement of all the homestays, Airbnbs, and so forth. So they're going to be looking for San Luis Obispo City for a 50% compliance immediately out of all the ones they can find, and then trying to up that if City Council does approve that in the agenda. So that is something we can definitely discuss further. They're pushing an aggressive model. But circling back around to the TOT then, basically that is the report. Is there any comments or questions from the board here to Jen about this?
I had a question, and it's kind of a non-hotelier question. So, like, from my understanding, the TOT is based on the fact that when a business brings in somebody to stay here, and they're staying, making money off of somebody staying here, there's the cost of them like using the services and all that stuff like that, and that's the essence of the TOT in a way, for me to understand. In that respect, I'm so on board with applying that to anybody that brings people to stay here and vacation here. I mean, that should be applied to everybody. So, like, I hear vacation rentals. Okay, so vacation rentals are, I guess, starting to make an impact and starting to have a number. Makes a lot of sense that they should be involved in the TOT or the TBID. But what other things are like that is my question. Again, not being a hotelier, like, what about like hostels and like overnight parking or overnight camping or Airbnbs? Like, are there like a whole lot of things that like do we have hostels in Morro Bay? Like, what if there was a hostel? Would they pay into TOT? And that's kind of like a future question for me, being like a non-hotel guy, and I'm sure there's more people out there that watch this that are similar. Like, who brings people into town and stays overnight and should pay into marketing that? I want to know. What if I want to open a hostel? I do.
I would like you to pay into the TOT, Taylor. Definitely. I mean, I think this is a growing conversation, and it's evolving. I think that vacation rentals should be part of our TOT for sure. And it's an animal that's kind of grown very suddenly with the amount of licenses that they've approved. And I know they're working to get it resolved, but state parks don't pay into it. They never will. I mean, they're a state system. But, I think the people that stay in a state park are very different than people that want to stay in a hotel, most likely. There might be some crossover, but it might be more oriented on their budget, and that's where they can afford to stay. So I don't think they're an issue for me. They're not. I think they're part of our system here.
And of course, this is a difficult conversation for me because I manage vacation rentals. And I look at it even a bigger picture. As we've gone through the approval process on a lot of these events, I look to say, well, what is the really huge area, who really does benefit from this? Restaurants benefit, stores benefit, the merchants benefit, all of that. And I feel like we're with this I consider a pretty steep tax that we put on our hotels, we're writing all of that on the back of the overnight visitor. And there's always the conversation about, well, are we competitive in our rates? Well, when you add that 3% on in, that just makes it less competitive, quite honestly. And so, to me, I feel like it's not just getting vacation rentals to pay or the RV parks to pay or the Airbnbs. Certainly all of those people need to be compliant with paying at least the TOT now in advance of them being assessed any additional taxes or assessments. But to me, we ought to look at a bigger thing. Maybe there needs to be a 0.5% sales tax increase here. And I know the merchants don't want to hear that, but why is lodging in whatever form carrying the burden of all of this tourism?
And I think we're just getting a little bit off of what we unfortunately
I
can
know.
control,
At some
but
point we
we
need
all
to talk
agree with
about
you.
this
Yeah.
because we have
Yeah.
such structured agendas, but I just don't know. I'm fairly new to the board, and so I don't know how we get to a point.
Some thoughts for you there, Maggie. Those are very, very good points. We want to get back on course here with the agenda items.
Okay.
These are things that, so note at the end of this here as a declaration of future agenda item.
Okay.
Let's put that on there.
Okay.
We'll review that over the course of the next 30 days before the next meeting, and let's discuss those things, because I do agree things can kind of get buried over that time. So let's
Yeah,
declare
right.
that at the end. Let's write it down. Let's bring it up next time. As far as Mr. Solu pointed out there, the TO2 is a very important thing. All of us as stakeholders need to have that information, Jen. So in the future, and I do realize you're trying to give us up-to-the-date information, is it possible to have it displayed up here on the PowerPoint so the audience can see where we're at? Year-over-year comparisons, I love trailing 12 months. All those metrics are huge, and let's try to get it in the packet as well. And that should be something that I think we can openly show to everybody right now, bring out discussion and thoughts. I do know that our occupancy has been dwindling. We know hotels have been driving rate. RevPAR is up, but that can start to descend as well. So this is something we want to look at 2017 and 2018. These are probably looming metrics for us. So I'd like to intelligently bring that to the table for all.
I totally agree. So part of the challenge that honestly we were having internally is new financial director coming in. So getting these numbers posted just is not happening as soon as we'd like. But I think now that Craig is in place, he'll be able to get his team to get these numbers, online quicker for me. So I unfortunately have been kind of at the disposal of trying to get them as they could get them done, and we've just been short-staffed, but I know that shouldn't be a problem from now on.
Okay, excellent, thank you. So in the future, we'll just put it on, we'll declare this as a future agenda item, but let's just put it on the reports from here forward and get some visuals to accompany it. Charlie, you had some thoughts?
I was just going to comment on John's, discussion about occupancy and rate and what happened in August and partially in July, because we felt it as well. And I know that, there was a lot of different things that happened. One of the things that, we do in business is we review each year, and our owners and investors don't want us to drop rate. They don't want us to show that we're decreasing in business. They want to see an 8, 10, 15% increase yearly. And it's a mix of occupancy and rate. And what we've done in Morro Bay is we've collectively raised our rates to the point of, I think we're getting pretty close to the max rate we're going to have for the moment. I'm not saying in the future, but right now we're the highest rate in the county. And that also will lead to a decrease in occupancy. We fought hard with the fires and all the things that John talked about. We did extra work trying to get that, but we were also pushing a very high rate, and have been and will continue to, having to make some adjustments of that rate, and backtrack on it isn't easy. And it's not what the investors want to see, but, it's that game of balance between occupancy and rate, and ultimately what you want is a high rate, high occupancy, and a great RevPAR. So it is a bit of a mix, but we found that this summer was difficult, and a lot of it had to do with those natural things. The fires was the biggest one that people said. AAA said that we were closed, that Morro Bay was closed. We had to call and push them to say, we're not closed. It happened before in Cambria with mudslides. They're closed. Well, no, we're not. We're not closed. Business is open. But we do really need to collectively look at our rates, and we compare our comp set. So when I'm comparing my comp set, I'm looking at my competitors, my complementary hotels in the area, John included. We look at each other's rates and we go, where are we? What do we do? Well, maybe we need to look outside a little bit further and look at not just the comp set within Morro Bay, but within San Luis Obispo County, and possibly really take it even further and go, what's Monterey and what's Santa Barbara? What are those guys doing? and really figure out, are we on the right track? Are we too high? What do we, how do we increase occupancy, maintain rate, and drive RevPAR? So that's our challenge.
One more thought for you on TOT is going back to what John was talking about as far as interaction from the hotels. The lack of interaction that we get from hotels in Morro Bay, and I've heard that it's this way in all communities, is what I've heard you guys talk about before, but we have to find a way to get the hotels more actively involved in trying to do these promotions. And I know 456 is always really good to respond, but that was one of the things I backed away from was the email blast, because I would get the same responses from 4 hotels every single time. And so I've been trying to go out actively to the individual hotels and try to persuade them in person, like our wine promotion, which we'll talk about a little later, and get more active involvement. But it's really a difficult thing. So anything the board can do to help us get hotels more involved with these promotions, as a community, it'll really help our TOT overall.
Excellent point. Thank you. Are there any other questions or thoughts?
I just know that putting a calendar in front of my guest agents and my reservation agents that say what's happening within the community, we put it out, we try to maintain a yearly calendar that shows from today for a year out what's happening in the county. And when that guest is calling and saying, I want a specific date, we're looking at that calendar going, well, while you're coming, did you know that this is happening and this is happening? These are things that will entice them to go, I want to book that reservation. And it doesn't need to be in Morro Bay. Whatever's happening could be in the county. It could be a county-wide thing, but having that information is really crucial to my reservation agents because it gives them something to talk about, keeps the guest on the line even longer. Why are you coming? What's bringing you to the area? What questions can I answer for you? The guest really wants to know what's happening in the region, in Morro Bay, and regionally what's happening. It can really affect the occupancy here to be better salespeople. So I think that calendar is really an important tool that we should be using.
That is good seasoned leadership, Charlie. Those are very good thoughts. Thank you. Any other questions or comments regarding the TOT? Is there any public comment on the TOT? Seeing none, we'll move on to the fourth item on the agenda today, which is a presentation from our illustrious CEO and President of Visit San Luis Obispo County, Chuck Davison.
Good morning. Chuck Davison on behalf of Visit San Luis Obispo County. Always a pleasure to be here in Morro Bay. Jennifer, thank you for the invite. Before I jump into the presentation, a couple notes based on kind of the last conversation that you were having. Just want to make you aware that every Thursday, Visit San Luis Obispo County pushes out an email called This Week in SLO County. It has a long list of events taking place throughout the community in order to help lodging properties facilitate conversation with their guests and try to extend the length of stay. In addition to that, we have an event calendar on our website. It's the most viewed by far portion of our website every single month. About 51% of the traffic to the site funnels through that events page. And that events page is calendared out on a 12-month basis. The city of Morro Bay has their own login to that to load all of Morro Bay's events, along with individual members and partners who do that same thing on their own. So if you don't have that resource here locally, I direct you to the Visit SLO County website that has that. In addition, just a point of reference on our tourism marketing district does include, as you know, hotels, motels, vacation rentals, B&Bs, and RV parks. It was set up that way specifically based on that question, Taylor, that you were asking. There is a hostel in the case of the city of San Luis Obispo, and they do pay into the TBID. And so our encouragement to all the local communities has been, as you consider renewing your TBID every single year, you may consider down the road including those same entities in. They're already accustomed to paying that. They're paying it into the county bid. And so I think there's an opportunity to help kind of craft that ship. So I want to walk you through a quick presentation today, and happy to entertain some questions. I also have a little takeaway for you with our annual report that was just published. Don't want to give that to you in advance because you'll spend time reading that while I'm doing the presentation. I really want you to focus on what I have to say. So I want to talk to you about some of the wins that we've brought to Morro Bay. I know this was one of the questions, I think specifically from Jane Beeman. What has Visit San Luis Obispo County done for Morro Bay? I was sharing with Aaron earlier, and he's heard this even at the board meetings. It's a long list. I'm going to spend time on kind of the high-level items, but it's a long enough list that we're hearing from members of our boards and members from other communities, would you stop with Morro Bay already, right? There's 7 other communities. You got to be broadcasting them. We constantly say there's only one rock. It's right behind you on that beautiful sign and right out the back door here behind me. So 2015, 2016 wins. As you remember, maybe in the first year of the district, our annual visitors guide featured Morro Bay on the front of it. That guide goes out to 45,000. There's 45,000 copies printed. The majority of those which are distributed out of market at California welcome centers, in airports, in other regional tourist traffic areas. And so that was a kind of the first step with the new formation of the TBID of our tourism marketing district. You also may remember that earlier this year, Morro Bay was featured in the Visit California TV spot. That was a direct result of a conversation that I had with the owner of Marion Carson, Visit California's agency of record. They were getting ready to revamp their new TV series, and at a Visit California board meeting that I was attending, I asked him, hey, how do we get the Central Coast, how do we get our community into that mix? We settled on Morro Bay. That created incredible domestic and international TV exposure for the city of Morro Bay, something that was unprecedented for our county, but also obviously for the city as well. In addition to that, last year we rolled out our very first targeted research program. Our board approved an $80,000 spend on 2 research studies, one a feeder market awareness study in our key traffic markets, and 2 a demographic and share of wallet study to better understand for consumers who were coming to the community, what was their spend, how did that relate, and what was our fair share of wallet against our competitive set. And the funnel down from that of when they did spend money in our market, how was that distributed geographically among the communities, and then how was it more importantly distributed between lodging, restaurant, shopping, wine, all the different components. And so we got a great understanding of that. But with that, Morro Bay had the opportunity, as did every community, to buy into this research, a huge program that we put together for a very nominal fee of $1,500 per study in order to ask your own series of questions to get specific information on the city of Morro Bay that we weren't obviously solving for at a higher level from a county standpoint. So you received from that a 72-page detailed report on what those findings were on those questions that you were able to procure from those individuals. It's great content and information. If you haven't been through it and you're not using it as part of your marketing plan, I encourage you to kind of go back and take a look at it. It's only a handful of months old at this point. Also, you may know that you hosted.
Chuck, I'm sorry.
Happy to entertain questions along the way as well.
I don't want to cut you off at all, but you're not overselling that Merrill research report. I myself, I've read every single page of it as a hotel broker and as a hotel owner. It is phenomenal, unprecedented data. I've shared it with clients. They're substantially impressed. Clients in larger metropolitan areas, that we have that kind of data in this region. So to all those out there watching, seriously, go on the Visit San Luis Obispo County website, download it, take a look. It will improve your business if you have some of this knowledge. And a lot of areas, even larger than us, don't have access to such an extravagant study. So,
thank you, and kudos to you as one of our board members, because it was the board who approved an $80,000 spend to do that study, which was really unprecedented in our market. And even as late as last night, I had gotten an email from one of our hotel partners in another part of the county that said, hey, I'm looking for some specifics. Did the research solve for this? And I was able to give them those points, and they came back this morning and said, that's the case I needed to make. Thank you for having that data available for us. So it is really good content. You obviously probably know that you hosted the start of the one of the legs of the AMGEN tour earlier this year in May. That was a direct result of a $30,000 investment from Visit San Luis Obispo County that allowed that race to happen here. Ultimately, I think it worked out to just a little over $26,000 in the actual cost to that race. But that was something that we brought to the city of Morro Bay in order to get that business business here and obviously created some exposure. I do want to say with that, one of the questions we often get, and I think, again, this was one of the questions from Jane, is how many rooms is Visit San Luis Obispo County driving to Morro Bay? I want to remind you of our two strategic initiatives. One is to generate awareness for the county. We are trying to make sure that people know San Luis Obispo County exists as a tourist destination, and how do we pair up or match up against, say, Monterey, Santa Barbara, Napa, Sonoma, that competitive set that we look at. Our second initiative there is to create demand. So if we generate awareness, that will ultimately create demand for people wanting to come here. We're not responsible or able to be the booking engine for San Luis Obispo County, and I'm going to give you a real-time example. In the case of AMGEN, AMGEN needed hundreds of rooms in the city of Morro Bay in order to facilitate that race for the riders, the sponsors, all the people who need to work here. Morro Bay couldn't facilitate those rooms. So we brought $30,000 to land that event here. The rooms that would have come with it, Morro Bay couldn't take. Visit San Luis Obispo County can't be on the hook for creating demand and the city not being able to appease that demand, right? Our responsibility is to create demand. We don't own the brick and mortar. You guys were having a long conversation about rate. I spent 15 years in the hotel industry. I get the RevPAR scenario. RevPAR is a bit out of control in our county. I was studying the STAR report last night. In the case of the city of San Luis Obispo last week, the 1st through the 8th of October, they were down 10.9% in occupancy. RevPAR down 9.8%. That's a variance of about 250 people a day that don't hit shops, restaurants, all these other components. There's risk there. And so, rate is definitely important, but you get to rate by building a base of occupancy. So I just want it to be, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Our board's directive is awareness and demand. We're not brick and mortar. We can't control whether or not, we can supply people to hotels, but if the hotels don't want that person because they won't pay the rate that the hotel wants, or the lodging partner, whether it's a vacation rental, RV park. There's a comment earlier that sometimes camping is a lower end model. I'll tell you, the Pismo Coast RV Village, Jay Jamison, who's the chair of our board, he gets about $150 a camping spot in prime season. That's more than some of the hotels in Morro Bay get. So I wouldn't discount RV parks. It's a big number. So on the other note of AMGEN, our board set aside $50,000 this year for the AMGEN race coming up in 2017. We, through conversations with Dave Buckingham and Jim Lewis in Pismo Beach, I think have in principle reached an agreement that that $50,000 will fund a start in Pismo Beach at $18,000 and a finish in Morro Bay at $32,000. And so we're now working with Jennifer here and Gordon in Pismo Beach to get together the asks of the assets on what's going to happen with AEG for the facilitation of that race. But again, one more extension of kind of one of the pieces that we're bringing to Morro Bay that likely you didn't have that $32,000 on your own in order to secure the finish. So we talked a little bit about that. So resources. I want to talk to you about some of the new things that we've pushed out. We talked a little bit about the research that Merrill did. We're also now pushing out these quarterly VisaVue travel research reports. And so these, in participation in our co-op with Visit California, we buy into this research. This is reports that offer key information on visitors to our destination through their visa spending. And so this kind of barrels down all the way through the markets. It focuses on how much they spend on lodging, on shopping, on restaurants, on retail services, all of those different components. As you know, with most research, this typically is a giant Excel spreadsheet with a bunch of numbers, and most people, unlike maybe myself or I know Aaron, don't have the appetite to digest that. I love numbers, and so those are things that I study on a consistent basis. We've taken these reports and actually turned them into infographics because that's what people in today's world want to see, a nice picture and high level of what does this information mean. There's further detail behind it if people want it, but those quarterly reports are published and available on our website under the members section of our website, and you can hop on there and download that information at any time. We have both Q1 and Q2 calendar for this year, along with the 2015 total roll-up. And those reports trail on a quarterly basis by about 45 to 60 days, depending on when Visa sends out the information. It has to wait until Visa gives their actual stock performance quarterly report before they can actually push the data to us. So that's where the trail comes in. This is what those infographics look like. There's both a domestic version and an international version. So you can see both of those two components and kind of study down the charts, the different categories, the different locations that they're coming from. In the case of international, you can look and see the bigger red dot is Canada and Germany in the yellow and China in the purple. And so you get a really clear understanding of kind of where is the path that these individuals are coming from. And back to what Charlie said, you can match that up against the data that you have at your own hotel and see if there's a shift in market share or maybe if there's a portion of business that you're missing that you should have the opportunity to go after. Lead management. So I want to talk to you for just a brief minute on the process of how we take travel trade leads and PR leads and how we push those out to the communities and to the individual properties. We've created this lead management sheet, again, kind of a pathway to make it a little bit easier for our partners to understand what happens with these as they come in. This, again, is available on the members portion of our website. You can download it, take a look at it. But it's essentially working a lead through the path of either the DMO directly. If somebody comes and says, if we've got a media partner who comes and says, hey, we'd really like to do a story on San Luis Obispo County, what's the opportunity for that story? We cascade that down to each of the individual DMOs. We then collaborate and work with the DMOs on what they're trying to sell in their specific market, what may be hot for them or what may be of interest in their market. They know that better than anybody else. And then that cascades back through the process all the way to that story getting published and the follow-up then that takes place repeatedly with that writer to make sure that they're coming back doing future stories in the future. And the same process in a similar fashion for the travel trade. So I encourage you to take a look at that. Happy to answer any detailed questions about that as well. Airport development. So you may know from we finalized a strategic plan several months ago. One of the big imperatives in our strategic plan was enabling access to visit San Luis Obispo County through key transportation options, with one of the key objectives there to increase total air service. I hope you know that Alaska Airlines has an inbound flight starting here in April. That, again, was in direct relation to the board approving several $100,000 in funding to put behind that flight. That was a long-term conversation that the airport had been having with Alaska Airlines. And Alaska said, hey, that's great. You say that there's demand, but we're going to launch this flight, and you have no marketing in Seattle to get people on this plane to come here. So we're not going to give you a flight because it's not going to last very long. Obviously, our tourism marketing district got it approved. We got into the airport development business to say, and our board said, hey, this is a major imperative. We put several $100s behind this. We went up and met with Alaska in November to kind of sell them on this package. Several months later, they announced our new flight service. So we're super excited about that. We're also currently working on some additional development that I want to talk to you about. But this was a major key initiative. This is the first new flight to San Luis Obispo County Regional Airport in 10 years. 10 years, right? We're better than that. It shouldn't take another 10 years to get the next one. So I was up in Seattle September 19th and 20th. We were in meetings with Alaska Airlines on the development of this flight and how that process is going to work. Also meeting with the Seattle Food and Wine Experience on another program that we're doing that I'll talk to you about in a second. Meeting with Visit Seattle, our counterpart up there, on how we do some cross-pollination between the two markets. And I spent several years of my life working at Expedia. And so we're going to do a big wine tasting at the Expedia headquarters for 4,000 employees as kind of a grassroots effort to get them aware of San Luis Obispo County before the flight even starts. So really excited about those things. So next steps from an airport standpoint. The airport's not going to be eligible for another grant, another DOT grant, until 2018, 2019. The current grant is only allowed to be used for one airline. That's tied up with the Alaska program. And so we're essentially stuck in the thought of not even a conversation on new service for the next 2 years if we don't figure out a different model. So what we've talked about and what we presented to our board at last month's meeting was working towards a minimum revenue guarantee or a letter of credit option to the airlines. And essentially what that means is we need to raise about $1 to $1.5 million from our county in order to start development on a new flight, which would likely be to Dallas or Denver. Our focus right now is how do we get eastbound. We've got a lot of of flights going up and down the West Coast, but we need to get east. Dallas is the market that we're really hot on. Texas is a huge wine market. If you're not aware of that, it's one of the top 2 wine markets in the United States behind California. In addition to that, Dallas provides us access to Central and South America. A lot of direct flights into DFW through those markets. So last month, our board kind of took the first step in this. We haven't even developed the MRG in the program, but again, going back to one of our imperatives to develop this new air service, our board felt it was important enough that they suggested they would be interested in funding a minimum of $100,000 towards this $1 or $1.5 million program before the program's even developed. We want to be a leader in this. We want people to understand how important it is to us as an organization because it is part of our strategic imperatives. So we're now working with the airport to complete an economic impact study for both Dallas and Denver on what that would mean to bring those flights into our market. We expect that. I just saw that late last week. We approved the study. We expect to see that back in the next 60 days. We'll take that information and develop into the ask. Then the ask in the coming months is we're going to be back in front of you and all the other communities along with the business leaders and the tourism and hospitality sector, talking to them about how we raise this funding. And so that may be something as you consider your budgets and going forward that the TBID says, hey, we'd love to have access to those flights too. Maybe we can afford to put, a few, maybe it's $25,000 or something behind this program going into the future, because our focus needs to be how do we open up the Central Coast or San Luis Obispo County specifically to other markets that we don't have the chance to talk to right now. SAVOR on the road. So this is a new concept for us. Most of you are probably familiar with, I know Taylor is, SAVOR the Central Coast, an event that we used to run here for 6 years. Our board made a decision last year to kind of table that and shift the focus. The new focus for this is taking this SAVOR experience on the road to food, wine, and lifestyle events around the regional part of the United States. So our first endeavor on this, in partnering with local restaurants, wineries, breweries, distilleries, and activity partners, is a build out at the San Diego Bay Food and Wine Festival coming up in November. And so what we've done is we've built a 20 by 30 booth experience. We're taking 8 wineries, 2 breweries, a distillery, and 2 restaurants down to San Diego, where we're going to build an event inside an event. So you've been to food and wine events. It's kind of one 10 by 10 booth at a time selling their own winery. Here, we're creating a giant tent with some interactive experience in that and bringing all of San Luis Obispo County so that people can taste and savor the San Luis Obispo County experience with the goal of then getting them to travel to San Luis Obispo County for a trip. So this is kind of unprecedented in all the food and wine events that we're talking to. Nobody else is doing this. So it's a pretty unique avenue. In the case of the San Diego event, gives us the opportunity to get in front of 8,000 tourists. 99.9% of those people, don't live in San Luis Obispo County. And we get to talk to them all in one day about doing that. We're also in partnership with this is kind of what that booth experience looks like. This is 20 feet deep by 30 feet wide. That's the San Diego Embarcadero behind it. And so building out kind of this lifestyle exposure event where we can do that. So this is kind of a list of some of the partners that are already participating. Great opportunity for your local restaurants and people who want to participate as we move on to new shows. We just finalized the contract earlier this week with the Seattle Food and Wine Experience to do the exact same thing up there. That will be the 3rd week in February, which is great timing considering the flight launches in April. Gives us a great opportunity to do some grassroots marketing before the digital marketing starts. Last but not least, kind of what's on the roadmap. Some of you know, we hired a new agency of record back. They started in July. A company based out of Virginia Beach, Virginia. Couldn't really get farther from California than that, but we found an agency that was super talented in the things that they do, and really strong at branding and getting the strategy out there. And we have found, if you look up and down the advertising of the California coast, everything's starting to blend together. We're trying to find a way to get out of looking like everybody else, and so this was a great opportunity for us to do that. So our new branding is currently in process. We actually unveiled the concept for the branding this past Tuesday at our marketing committee meeting. Jennifer, I know you weren't able to be there, but we talked to all the individual communities that are represented represented on our marketing committee. Our marketing committee is made up of each of the DMOs have a seat at that table to keep them kind of ingrained in what's going on at our program and give them the opportunity to provide feedback for the direction we're heading and also reduce duplication between the markets. We also have a couple of agencies, local agencies here, marketing agencies that are on that, and several hotel marketing executives. And so we rolled out that branding to them, talked to them about that process, allowed them to see and provide feedback, and that will go to our board of directors next Wednesday. So we're really excited about that. In addition to that, we talked to them, they got to see the marketing plan that we're getting ready to roll out. It's a 20-month plan through June of 2018, and give feedback on what programs they want to be involved in and how that process should work, along with be able to provide some direction to some of the media and things like that we're doing. So it was a great opportunity, about a 2-hour meeting, a lot of content, but a great opportunity for them to be involved in that process. And it's the opportunity really for the communities, the DMOs, to provide feedback on the direction that we're headed. SAVOR, we talked about that experience coming out of this new branding and the marketing plan. We're just getting ready to sign the contract this week for our new website development, which we're super excited about. Our website's now about 3.5 years old, and with the new brand and how quickly digital is moving, it's a great opportunity for us to get video and some really robust content out there as we build the program. So with that said, I am happy to entertain questions.
Thank you, Chuck. Questions? Taylor?
Chuck, on the new branding of SAVOR, is it without the Sunset magazine portion?
Yeah, so Sunset was tied directly to that event that was built here, and Sunset, you may know, sold their location up in Northern California. They moved their corporate offices to Jack London Square, and in doing that, they lost their Sunset Celebration Weekend, and they moved that actually to a winery that they're a partner with in Sonoma County. So they are essentially doing the SAVOR, the Central Coast, in Sonoma in their own kind of fashion. So yes, they're not included in this process. And in a tent, 20 by 30, we don't really need a sponsor of that. It's not big enough for them to get kind of the return that they need. Typically, they're going to sponsor the event like the one we're attending, the San Diego Bay Wine and Food Festival.
Thank you, Maggie.
Yeah, I wasn't able to attend the Tuesday meeting. I wanted to and just couldn't. But is that information out there on the website, the presentations that were done, or when is it going to be available?
Yes, and no, they are not. And the reason for that is because our board hasn't seen them. So we follow a pretty strict process, right? We put that information in front of, it is a public meeting, and so that information is available should you choose to show up. But the documentation behind that meeting is held until our board meeting the following week. So our board will have the opportunity to review the marketing plan and the recommendations that came from the marketing committee. They'll have a chance to review the branding information and the direction that we're headed, along with the strategic partnership information. Once the board makes a decision on that, then that information becomes populated into our website under the meetings and agendas portion of our site.
Thank you, Maggie. Chuck, let's discuss a little bit further the minimum revenue guarantees for the airport here. I think it'd be intelligent for the public to know a little further about that. So Visit SLO County, we've pledged as a board up to $100,000 for that guarantee. We'd also eventually, assuming that we build momentum with this, reach out to the other DMOs and regions to additionally add pledged dollars. Now to clarify though, those dollars aren't actually being spent. They are pledged dollars. They're essentially set in an escrow account and untouched.
Yes, that is correct. So what happens in that, and kind of take a half step back, and this is going to be quick math, don't hold me to this, but it's the easy way to bucket it. Let's say that we need $1.5 million. Our kind of general target would be, can we raise $500,000 from tourism? Can we raise $500,000 from the general business community through something like our partnership with the EVC, the Economic Vitality Corporation, Mike Manchek and his group? And could we get $500,000 from government? In the case of this Alaska flight, the county put up $220,000 to help liquidate that flight. So in this aspect of a MRG, yes, that money is put into an escrow account. It's for that flight development. Typically with an airline, that's tied to the first 2 years of the route. And what the airline says is, if we can't meet our minimum revenue needs, we're going to withdraw funds from that account to keep us liquid. So the hope is, in all aspects right now, it looks like the Seattle flight's going to be extremely successful. When we did that research with Merrill, at the very last minute, based on where we were with our negotiations with Alaska, we put Seattle in there as one of our feeder market awareness markets, just to test the data. Data came back overwhelming on how hot of a market that is for us and how much those people are looking. It's one of Santa Barbara's top 3 markets because they have a direct flight from Seattle. And if you've been to Seattle, and I spent a lot of time there in my days at Expedia in Bellevue, right outside of Seattle, 6 months of the year it's cold and dreary. And so the opportunity to see the sunshine is a big thing. So what traditionally happens is if those airlines need to dip into those funds, they do. But our hope would be that we take that 1.5, and let's say over that 2-year period, the airlines need to withdraw, let's say for the sake of conversation, $300,000. That leaves us 1.2 at the end. We then take that and roll it into the next airline development. It's not funds that necessarily get pushed back to somebody. You're kind of giving those up under the auspice of you might not get them back. But it rotates to another development, and this process just keeps working on and on and on. And in parallel, we're getting grant funding back, we hope, after that 2-year period when the airport can go back out and pursue those grants. And then maybe we're running a parallel track on 2 programs with 2 different airlines for development. You probably know they've got a new airport terminal under development. I fly in and out of that airport usually about 3 to 4 times a month. We're really excited to get that. It's 4 gates as opposed to the 1 gate we have. If you fly out at 5:55 in the morning like I typically do, it's a bit confusing when you get to the bottom of the ramp and there's 3 planes. Which one do I want to get on? So this is really going to help us in the development. New flights coming in at the same time a new airport terminal is being opened. Great opportunity.
Thank you for that explanation. Are there any further questions or thoughts from the board? Charlie, you're conspicuously quiet.
I just want to say good job. I mean, I'm very impressed with what your team has been able to accomplish in a very short period of time. We're excited about the airport expansion and all for it. And Jennifer and I had a discussion about different cities too, and so in the future we'll see what happens. Denver's a great market too, so very exciting times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it is interesting thank you, Charlie, for those comments, and it's interesting to note, although it seems for many of us much longer, the Tourism Marketing District has now been in place for 16 months. 16 months. I'm going to hand you out our annual report, which was completed. This was the first 12 months. And there's a lot of major initiatives in here that there's no way could have happened without the amazing team that we have at Visit San Luis Obispo County and their complete and utter dedication to this process, but also without so many of you who have been intimately involved in the process, and people like Aaron and Val Seymour here in your community who serve on our board, and really allow us to be able to move the needle at a pretty fast clip. Tourism's on the rise right now. We all are anticipating that day when the economy is going to start to back off. The more we can do right now while things are hot, the better off we're all going to be as things begin to slow down.
And I just want to say that it's good you emphasize Morro Bay. We all appreciate
Yes.
that. We think you're putting your money in the right spot.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
I'll also just note real quickly that annual report is available to be downloaded on our website in digital fashion. So if you need extra copies, it's a great way to just grab it there and push it out to whoever you need. Thanks so much for allowing me to be here this morning.
Excellent point. Thank you very much for the presentation, Chuck. We really appreciate it. All right, seeing as how we've concluded that presentation, which was the 4th item on our agenda, we'll move to the 5th item, which is the marketing update, broken down into letter increments here. The first one is the monthly marketing report, point A. Jen?
Real quickly, I'm wondering, do we want to discuss the 2 grants so we can let Maggie go? She's patiently, are we allowed to do that? Out of order?
I don't see a problem with that whatsoever.
Because she needs to leave and she's been patiently waiting. Is that okay to go through those grants?
Let's jump right into it then. Okay, so we'll move from point A then to point C on here, which is the discussion of the Merchants Association and the Superbration. But Meg, since you're here, let's start with Superbration.
And I was just going to, my position on this is I would recommend to go ahead and fund both of them. I think that when the grants were put out, as we talked about before, it was a pretty short turn and it caught a lot of people off guard. And, you know, they're completely a nonprofit group, and the Merchants Association is been working really hard with me to kind of bridge that gap between merchants downtown and the Embarcadero, which I really appreciate. So my recommendation would be to approve both, but it's to you guys.
I like the event. I think it's for a good purpose. I was just curious. I'm sorry, Charlie. On the paperwork that was forwarded to us, though, and I'm for it. I just wanted to understand the logistics here. What was forwarded out, it was circled as denied. And, excuse me, which...
You're right.
Yes.
So the subcommittee had used the very... the basis was it does not really do hotel rooms. It's a local event.
Yeah, they noted
So
here it's a fundraiser, not an event, what they
It
said.
came to the board, and you guys approved it based on that it was just a really good event to do. And it also is the same day as the triathlon. And so we were hoping we could help, get those two together a little bit, which I don't know that they've been able to do. Maybe she can tell us more about that. But that was where we kind of went with it, and you had approved the funding on it.
Sure. Meg, did you want to elaborate a little bit on the relationship with the triathlon? And thank you for staying the extra hour here.
Sure, thank you. So I did contact the person with the triathlon, and neither of us saw a really direct relationship. We couldn't quite imagine how, sweaty bodies would be wanting to, afterwards go, even though it's a lovely event, it's a little bit more, dressy, kind of thing. But she agreed to send out information to their email list. So at least their perspective, excuse me, attendees are getting information about our event. Now, whether there's really, if we could ever schedule, a Saturday, Sunday, then that would be more likely to be a crossover. But so.
Taylor?
Yeah, I have comment. Just going back to what you just pointed out on the original application, which was prior to the additional information.
Right.
We've already seen that denied portion. I like to point out that that's a great example while more focus on having event-educated staff is something we have all talked about needing. Somebody writing on an application that it's a fundraiser, not an event, really shows a lack of knowing that most events are fundraisers. So why would you make that classification? Second, I had discussion on my own time with the event coordinator for the triathlon in relation to the Superbration, and we both, amongst probably 2 or 3 email back and forth, there was a short amount of time to set up what we would like to, the ideas we had about how you could link the events, besides providing information which she already pointed out, which they're doing. There were some possibilities of doing some kind of linking thing where maybe some restaurants, like this is next year, this kind of stuff you don't just all of a sudden change and do in a matter of weeks. Maybe next year, you could have some kind of voucher system with some restaurants with clam chowder or something. We talked about that stuff, but it needs time. So I would think that in the future, tying to the triathlon could really be developed.
Excellent point. Thank you, Taylor. Maggie?
I'm sorry, I'm confused. So if we did approve funds before,
Yeah.
what are we evaluating today?
They missed their deadline for getting the paperwork back is all. And so
okay.
based on paperwork date, they do not get funding unless it's approved by the
Oh,
board.
got it.
So
Okay, I'm
last
sorry.
month, we
I didn't
added it to the
understand.
agenda.
Okay.
No problem at all. On that note, unless there's any other questions or thoughts from the board, since we did go through this process and approve it before, it seems natural to make a motion to do so. Second a motion? Anybody ready to do that?
Second.
Well, excuse me, I can't actually create a motion as the chair. So we need a first, a second.
I submit a motion that we do accept their extension and that we give them the original funding,
For the $2,000.
the $2,000 that was granted to them. in the process.
Thank you, Maggie. Do we have a second?
A second.
Public comment on the motion? Take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 4-0 to fund superbration. And we do appreciate as a...
I also want to invite you all to the Superbration because it's going to be an incredible event with an incredible MC, and this event will definitely benefit everyone in Morro Bay and in the county because it really helps fund the Pacific Wildlife Foundation. So thank you.
Thank you for the plug, Charlie.
I'll be there.
Who's the MC?
The MC
You said
is
Triff.
Mr. Fabio. No.
He can't believe it's not butter.
I have his face. He's
like the brunette.
He's right here. What is his name?
Oh, he looks like
he's a
Antoine from Deuce Bigelow. Yes? No?
I don't know his name.
A little bit? Sorry.
Oh, he does look like he's gorgeous. Featuring
Robin Atkin Down. She'll be. He's a character.
Okay.
All right.
Beautiful, talented man.
Taylor loves him. Next on under action item C here is the discussion of the Merchants Association, and they were looking for an extension and the funds as well. Is there any public comment on this before we begin discussion as a board? Seeing no public comment, my understanding, Jen, is this is the same situation as Superbration. We did approve the funds. They were just late with their paperwork?
That's correct.
Okay.
And how much did we approve? I didn't see that in the...
That was 37.5, I want to say. Is that?
Right, and we still have the funds in the account, so. And just to kind of emphasize on what's going on with the Downtown Merchants Association, they have, through the chamber and through myself, we've been working with the Downtown Merchants Association, and there's a group that's kind of band together on the Embarcadero, and they're working to kind of bring this event together and run it all the way down Morro Bay Boulevard and then onto the Embarcadero to really make that link together that we're all trying to do on a long-term basis. And so I really appreciate that they're stepping kind of a little out of their comfort zone and working to, kind of bring that together on our city. And the same thing is happening with Halloween, which is not a Downtown Merchants Association, but it's really actively involves pretty much the same group of people. And they're doing the same thing. It's going to go down the Embarcadero as well. So with that being said, I think it would be the right thing to do to go ahead and resubmit and approve their budget. And part of that addition was for lighting. I don't know if you remember, they had asked for money to do lighting in downtown.
Right, and we did vote to approve this then. For some reason, the number 3,750 stands out to me, but I don't see it on the paperwork here. Does that sound correct, Jen? The dollars they're requesting?
It does.
I just want to confirm before we...
Well, I'll
You voted
confirm
this
the
on, right?
amount. Whatever they were approved for before, we will approve the same amount, Aaron.
Approve the same amount?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm sorry, I don't have the amount with me.
No problem. If we don't have discussion as a board, can we get a motion?
I make a motion to approve the Winter Merchants Fest. What's it called?
The Morro Bay Merchants Association Home for the Holiday Street Fair.
What Aaron said for the amount we originally approved them for.
Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second in front of Maggie.
Charlie seconds. All right. Any public comment on the motion? Seeing no public comment, we will vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 4-0. We will fund them as we originally voted and grant an extension on the application. All right. We'll circle back around. We did skip here in item 5 in the marketing update. We did skip to letter C. We'll come back to letter A and then work our way back down the agenda again. Letter A being the monthly marketing update.
Correct. Thank you for going out of order. I appreciate it.
No
So
problem.
can all of you see the PowerPoint okay?
I can. Yes.
You're all good?
Yeah.
Okay. So...
Can you move the screen closer, Jen?
It's like it's attached
I mean,
to
if we
the
couldn't, are
wall.
there really options right now?
No, there's not.
Okay.
So basically, these are numbers from Mental Marketing, and they're really actively, tracking what we're doing online, which is really good. So going back to our earlier discussion about TOT as well as August, I wanted to talk about September because September did really well, and I'm really hoping we'll see an increase in our final numbers when we get our TOT report. Now, this was when we did our wine month promotion, so I think that was part of it. And so the web stats, if you can read them up there, for unique visitors, we were up 67%, which is pretty great. The lodging page was up 44%. Now, we moved the lodging page around. In mid-August, we were able to rework the website, so now it floats on every page. So when you go to our site, if you go off of the lodging page and you're on restaurants or you're on what to do in town, you still have that option to click on lodging and book a room, where before you lost that. So that, I think, is why we're seeing that increase on our lodging page. Jackrabbit searches are up over 200%, which is pretty amazing. And then the referrals are up 96% on Jackrabbit as well. Advertising to date, so probably one of the big shifts that's been done with Mental Marketing compared to how Verdin was marketing. Verdin had a lot of print media. Mental does a lot of digital media, and it's probably a very big swing in change. So for them, for the digital paid impressions, they're at 5.8 million for the month of September. Clicks on our website was over 38,000. So I think the numbers are pretty strong. The Facebook campaigns that we're running, so the Facebook campaigns would have been in support on top of other Adara or Ad Taxi. So Facebook campaigns would have been things specifically targeted towards maybe a weekend event, or we wanted to just press up numbers. If we saw numbers were slightly down, we'd go in and emphasize something specifically on Facebook. That was not the primary target for online marketing. Looking at the actual wine promotion, which we started promoting in mid-July, and it ran through September, and it was a free bottle of wine with a 2-night stay. There was also a secondary option that was put online just to see what the response would be, which was 10% off your room rate instead. And by far and large, everybody wanted the free bottle of wine. So, it was wine month countywide, California-wide, so I think it was just appropriate to be, what was going on. The results as the analytics go, the landing page we had. So we're doing specific landing pages for events so that we can look on a long-term basis, are these promotions doing well? Do we want to repeat them? Are they worth repeating? So that we're using our money really wisely, year after year. So on the landing page for this, specifically for the wine promotion, we had 9,900 visitors. Jackrabbit searches were over 12,000, and then Jackrabbit referrals to the lodging were over 7,000. And then on the places to stay page, it had 3,900 clicks. The way they promoted this event was, like I said, through strictly digital ads. Adara, Ad Taxi, TripAdvisor, VisaVue was supporting it pretty strongly through public relations. They had a campaign that was running for Cal Poly parents coming back, and so like Chuck mentioned earlier, they've got a pretty strong campaign that they do on their website that we tie into every month on our events as well. So the part that I was kind of bummed about was we only had 7 hotels participating. Not a lot of participation. I have the hotels listed up there that participated. If we can get higher participation, I think it will help overall. So the way it worked before is if you wanted to be on this event, if you wanted to get a free bottle of wine, it only showed those 7 hotels. If it showed more on our main page, I think it would, obviously do really well for us as a city. Any ideas you have for increasing, what I was doing was we went out individually to each hotel and tried to convince them to participate. That's what we ended up doing. And we also added another option of, we gave them a 2-for-1 wine tasting also to try to increase hotels that wanted to do it, but we still only had 7 hotels. Taylor?
Yeah, I do have a comment. Maybe when we get to the future agenda items, there's been a common thing that's been popping up since I joined this board about how do we interact with the hoteliers. It used to be a dominant discussion item because we didn't have enough people up here at this table. How do we get hoteliers more involved? And I was listening to John Solu today, and the getting information out to them. And I've had this. You and I talked about too much information and useful information. I think it's a really good point. And then one of the things he had said is he'd made a comparison to the Merchants Association and or even Chamber of Commerce maybe, and how the information they give out. But at the same time, if we look at those other groups that interact with these members, how do they get their members to show up? You know what I mean? So like if we were to look at the TBID as a member organization, how do we get our members to interact? So we should try to look at them for examples, like how do they get their members to interact? Like the Chamber of Commerce has those monthly mixers, like why don't we have hotel mixers? I go to hotel mixers. I go to the Chamber of Commerce mixers when they're at hotels because they have better stuff. And it's classy and it makes me feel fancy. I love fancy hotels. I don't have the money to stay at them, but I love to go hang out at them. So great idea.
I'll invite you to the mixer on February 15th at the Inn at Morro Bay, a joint Chamber of Commerce mixer with the San Luis Chamber and the Morro Bay Chamber, which will have food and wine and some excitement. But yes, getting together socially is important, I think, in many ways. I attended the last Chamber mixer, which was down at Stax, and one of the things that we do now, and one of the things that I think that these mixers are good for is you've got to work together. And so I always try to find a connection. Try to find someone that I don't know who's in business in Morro Bay and let them know about my business. And it definitely is, sort of a chamber function, but I love the idea of getting more hotels involved in doing mixers like this so that we can share with each other and get more people involved. But it really is about networking. It's about getting together, letting them know your products, and sharing that information. So I'm with you on that.
And I have a question on that, and that is because we are a board that is bound by the Brown Act, like if we wanted to have, even if not once a month, but once every other month, where we would get together to get the input, to have a meeting, are we restricted from doing that because then we have a quorum and we can't really... So can you get around that with mixers where there's no decision being made? I see us being different than the chamber because they're not, because there's not a...
It's just important to understand when you're having a discussion, you don't want to have a discussion regarding these items on our agenda or anything in regards to that, especially if you're in a group setting with others that aren't part of the board and you start talking about board business, then you really put yourself in a position. Even worse, to get together in a small group, like, hey, let's talk about this over here on a glass of wine. You just don't want to do those things.
Yeah.
So that is a little tough.
Yeah, I saw in Jane's notes, and I thought that wasn't a bad idea either, which was to assign for each of us to be ambassadors to some of the other hoteliers, so assign me 4 or 5 that I get to know and that I could go out and get their opinions on and bring that back. I really thought that was a good idea. And that would be a way of us helping you, Jennifer, promote these. We could advocate that and make them aware of it and things like that. That's a thought.
I like that idea if you guys are up for that, but honestly, you're a volunteer board, so that's asking a lot of you. I mean, that's what I'm paid to do, but that's what I've been trying to do, Maggie, is just literally go door to door and just spend time with the hoteliers and try to get to know them. Coming in new here, it's fairly impersonal for me to just be sending out email after email, and they don't know me, and I need to build that relationship. And so I think it's just been kind of, like Taylor said, there's kind of 2 things coming together. We're just trying to better it. But always, you should definitely know your hotels and go out and talk to them about what we're doing as a board, definitely. Aaron?
I was just fielding the comments here. No, I'm fine. They said a lot of my thoughts, so I won't be redundant.
Okay, so moving on, I want to talk a little bit more about September. So I mentioned earlier about the Facebook promotions that we did, and these would have been separate from our initial buys. Labor Day bookings, we did a lot of promoting on Facebook for Labor Day. Got about 638 clicks onto the booking link. So that's a little different. We were able to put a link on there so we can see if they're actually going to our booking page, which was really nice. Avocado Margarita They gave us 100 free tickets, and so we promoted those through Facebook that you can get your free tickets if you booked a room, which was really great. I think next year we'd like to have that be probably part of their grant process, that we ask them for, maybe it's 1,000 tickets. And, we want that to come to TBID, 1,000 tickets, and those will go towards booking rooms. Worked really well with the 100 tickets that they gave us this year. For Harbor Festival, Harbor Festival, free event, so there's not really anything that you can grab them and get them in the door that's going to save them money, but we did some pretty heavy promotion. They were also doing promotion, but we just weren't seeing the room bookings, so what we were doing in our office was we were actually calling the hotels every 3 days and seeing if they were increasing numbers over the 2 weeks coming into both the festivals, and Harbor Festival just was not gaining like we would like to see it, and so as we'd get closer, we'd change and add money to the Facebook part of it and do some geofencing, which geofencing to me it's good. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's really capturing people that are coming into the county. So it's not capturing the longer night stays that I would like to really do. It's more of a secondary thing that you need to do to fill those extra rooms that are not being filled. And so we did that closer to Harbor Festival when the rooms just still were not filled. Any questions on those three? So I want to talk about Jackrabbit a little bit. I know there's always a Jackrabbit discussion, and I've emailed several of you about kind of what's going on. There's been some problems with some of the rates that they're showing for some of the hotels. They're not correct, and so we've been working with them. They have one fixed, and the other one they're still trying to resolve because it's a national brand. They're trying to figure out how to fix it. But on the referral site, their Book Direct button, so these are their monthly report that they send us, has all the hotels broken out. There's, I believe it's 6 hotels that do not have the Book Direct button, and so we're trying to go out to each one of them and get them to add it to their page. What happens when you don't have the Book Direct is you go to the very bottom of the page. So it's not in order by alphabetical, it's not in order by price, you're just way at the bottom. So it would benefit them to get the Book Direct button on it. Pretty strong numbers, over 1,300 on the Book Direct. The phone link, if you have a phone number on there, we had 13 links to that, so that's not so strong. The picture, meaning your logo or whatever icon you have for your hotel, 445 people clicked on that. The title or the name would also be the name of the hotel, 718, and then to your website link, 1,155. So total links for the month through Jackrabbit were 3670. I mean, I think that's pretty strong. We're getting these numbers from Jackrabbit, I think, really helps so we can kind of evaluate how it's doing as we're going forward and looking if we want to stay with Jackrabbit or other booking agencies. So I like seeing these numbers. These are new to us that we didn't have these before.
Jen, do we have the year-over-year comparison?
I'd be glad to get it. I don't have it, but that's a great idea.
Okay. That always just helps me to gain perspective on are we doing better or worse when you can go back in time, look at the trailing 12, and also look at the year-over-year comparison. So,
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
So Jackrabbit as a whole, it's a referral engine, and I just put these few things up there. And I'm sorry that Jane's not here because I know she always has some Jackrabbit comments and questions, but I will make sure she gets a copy of this PowerPoint. But, it's built on the concept of allowing customers to book directly with the property through their reservation engines, which is nice. And Jackrabbit is unique in that way, that they build custom receipts for each reservation engine, and they're able to display the rates and availability to those clients. And as I mentioned, there's 2 properties that for some reason it's grabbing old data and it's not changing the rate. So if you see anything that looks kind of hinky on there, let me know and I can put in a ticket and get it fixed right away. So, and because Jackrabbit is able to gather call to action data, we don't have to have the individual properties manage the system, and there's no commission fees on the reservation that's made. The way that Jackrabbit charges us is a month, it's a rental for the lease for the year, which is nice. I don't know your opinion on Jackrabbit go forward. I think it's something I would like to put on the future agenda for looking at possible, comparing it to other booking agencies, and probably need to put a group together and maybe a subcommittee hoteliers, and I don't know who wants to be on that, but I could use a couple people to help me evaluate some different components on that.
Yeah, those are good thoughts, and the direct booking is something we want to promote, especially as it runs through the TBID and the city website, absolutely, but we need the most efficient engine to do that, that seamlessly links up and manages all the channels. Taylor does have a question, though.
It's kind of for you guys. So the direct booking, that's a better thing for the hotels and everybody, right? Instead of like going through Expedia and stuff
Absolutely.
like that.
Yeah.
Right. So we want that more.
Huge. If somebody books through Expedia, Booking.com, any of the OTAs, then the hotel will pay a minimum of 15% upwards commission, sometimes 20%. And sometimes when your profit margin is maybe only 45% of your operating budget, you just gave away half of your profit to an OTA. So they are the bane of our existence. We're always trying to work around them, but we have to work with them. So little engines like Jackrabbit can be tremendously helpful if they're utilized.
Yeah, and I think Jackrabbit is really great. And getting this type of information as far as where people are clicking through on their links and trying to get these few hotels, if you guys want to look online and see who's not participating, and we're going to go out and reach out to them individually as well. But it'd be good for us as a whole.
Thanks, Jen. Any other questions or thoughts, board? No? Okay.
Sorry, November, December, we are getting ready to start a new campaign. And thinking about the September campaign, the wine campaign, it did well. But again, one of the challenges that I had was getting participating hotels to participate. So what we're doing for November, December, remember we were talking about family reunions and coming together over the holidays in Morro Bay. And so what we're going to do as far as promotion is free for kids. Museums are free for kids. And that way I can run it straight through the tourism department and give the free tickets, and it can be good for all hotels. So I don't have to worry about whether a hotel wants to participate or not. They just have to show me that they booked the rooms, and we can give them the free tickets. So I'm trying to think broader thought on how do we get around the issue that we have and make it better for us as far as bookings go. So these
Sorry, Jen, free what?
museums, the three museums in town will be
Okay.
free for kids.
The three.
And so obviously the natural history, what are the three museums being offered up?
The Natural History Museum, the Morro Bay Aquarium, and the Skateboard Museum.
Great.
Okay. That's okay. You're ill. So it's free tickets for the children? Okay.
That is correct.
Thank you. Okay. Jen, you need to, I understand, you've been taken ill the last few
Could we
days.
please take a 5-minute break?
Do we want to take an intermission for 5 minutes? All right, let's just do that. The time right now, 10:28. Let's take a 5-minute intermission and come back in 5. So at, say, 10:33.
And we are live.
All right, folks, we are live again. We apologize for that. Had to take a brief intermission. We'll jump right back into business. Jen was just summarizing the marketing campaigns here for November, December. Guests, children get passes to the 3 museums in the area in exchange for staying at our lovely hotels and seeing the town. Jen, so I think we were wrapping that up. Does that seem about right?
Right. These are just concepts right now, but it's basically the gifts. It's a 2-part gift that flashes back and forth. So it's, is your family free for November, December? We are. And then the bottom says kids free to 3 museums in Morro Bay. I think it'll do really well.
It's a nice
It'll be strong
promotion.
for us, yeah.
We're a family-friendly destination. I like it. And I know that our hotels will be participating for sure.
Everybody will, actually. So I think
course.
that'll be good, yeah. So I'm going to give you a quick AMGEN update.
Okay, that's part A is concluded. Now we'll move on to part B here, the marketing update, AMGEN update.
So AMGEN went back to City Council on Tuesday. City Council approved it to have Morro Bay do the finish. There's no signed contract yet with them. Just so you're aware, we're still working on some of the final asks. And actually, Chuck Davidson, myself, and Gordon from Pismo Beach are going to collectively do our asks together so that we can we're trying to go in countywide and have a strong presence so that we have a formal, across-the-board, unified feeling instead of, them kind of doing different cities with different things. So I think that'll be good. And then I don't think AEG will announce the cities until November. So I have just a couple things written down as far as what I have on my list for asks from a tourism side. So one is to ensure that the cameras are running live when they go through the state park. I think is really important. Aaron, can you read those?
So some of the asks that we'll be looking for here for the TBID, and this is in conjunction with Visit San Luis Obispo County, as well as the City of Pismo Beach Tourism Department as well. We want to, if we're going to spend this money and get this coverage, we want the coverage to be a controlled conversation between us and the public and our potential tourism guests. So some of our asks we'll be building into this will be to ensure the cameras are running live when they ride through the state park area here in Morro Bay. Another point, we'll be asking for negotiate getting the media's list 2 weeks in advance as part of the deal. We can reach out to them directly. Another ask will be the ability to give our media flash drive press kits out to help control the conversation between us and the media. Another ask will be part of our negotiation will be to secure a live media interview with the mayor or some kind of live pitch of Morro Bay from the announcers if we provide them with a 150-word pitch and they read it live on the air. Once again, helping to control the conversation. The last ask we will have is live links to our website on their press releases and website. That's what it says.
So as we go along the next couple weeks, if you guys think of anything, email me, and I'll add them to the list. Doesn't mean we'll get them, but we should ask.
But these are all negotiating points, so line it up in
Things
advance.
that I want to ask, yes, specifically.
Precisely. Okay. Taylor?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that the first one is monumental for me for voting for the money. I mean, I just, watching those people go through that area is just, it's worth so much. And that would be like a make or break for me.
Good point. Thank you, Taylor. And it's part of our natural resources here. It's a lovely thing to help highlight during that kind of international coverage.
So next thing on the list is Plan Morro Bay. I just want to mention this happened last night. They're having these workshops. This, I think, was their second one. One of the things that they talked about was a new identity for the city. There's actually a board in the back of the room that they've left here for all of you to also vote on. So these are not final designs. These are really rough drafts. And there's 3 different things that you're supposed to look at and vote on. One is just the icon at the top. Second one is 2 different color palettes, and then 2 different taglines on the bottom. And then once they get this tighter and find out what the community likes, I do think that we need to put out to research, outmarket, see how it's going to affect us on the tourism side versus Discover Morro Bay or Discover Our Better Nature. and just see how people respond out of market. So I'll bring that probably to the next meeting.
Thank you, Jen. And we want as much community input as possible on this as well. This is our brand. This is something we'll be running forward with on both a city level and a tourism level, creating synergy. Taylor, you have a question?
Yeah. So how many times has Morro Bay changed its brand?
I really don't know, Taylor, but that's a really good question. I can find out for you.
Just because, like, I would think, like, one of the basic principles of a brand is to find one and stick with it, because then you're just wasting time.
This came out of Plan Morro Bay, so they are working on the Embarcadero, and there's a lot of components of this. To them, this is a very small part. It's a very important part to me, and so that's why I've asked to be involved, because it greatly affects tourism. So we'll make sure that we're involved in it.
I mean, everybody knows that in the current world, branding is just huge with digital and everything.
One of the things that I had heard is that, and Jane talked to me about this as well, is that Discover Your Better Nature was the original tag, and then it was shortened to Discover Morro Bay. And I know that there was some discussion about why and who made the decision to do that. Was it the shortened logo, whatever? I'm not exactly sure, but I heard that there was some contention within the city and tourism about why did you drop that? And were we using it right? And I just know that, there was a lot of time and effort spent on Discover Your Better Nature, Morro Bay. And so and again, kind of echoing Taylor, going, I know we're back, recreating something again where Discover Your Better Nature and Discover Morro Bay, I think are wonderful. So anyway, that's just my thought.
And that might be what we find out doing our own research, and that might be where we go back to. I know that the original tagline was done 17 years ago. When it changed, I'm not aware or why it changed, but we're going to review all of them. Absolutely.
And Jen, to clarify the significance of this, TBID dollars are not being used to develop any of this. Is that correct?
That's correct. So
Okay.
Community Development has hired Michael Baker International to do Plan Morro Bay. And part of that was this rebranding the city. If you drive around town right now, there's several different logos and icons, and it is quite a mess. So this will include signage all over town. I mean, it's wayfinding. It should be a really good thing to get a consistent look for our town. But that will also probably affect the logo as well.
But from branding as a DMO point of view, we are left with the consequences of these decisions.
Possibly, if we go do our research and find that especially the taglines do not resonate with tourism, or it's going to affect our tourism, we can push to stick with Discover Morro Bay or go back to Discover Better Nature.
So we want to try to keep a voice in this process, given a third of the city's budget is generated from tourism. It's important.
Right, and so at the next TBID, I will come back with a plan of doing this out-market research and a cost against it. I think it's imperative that we do it. I know Jane is not really excited about doing research, but if the city is going this way, I think we really need to look at the logo, look at the identity, look at the tagline, and how it's going to affect us. Because I'm with you, Charlie. We really need to make sure that this is right or wrong and be behind it one way or another.
And sticks for decades.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I'm just keeping you guys up to date on everything that's going on, so.
It's good.
Okay. So the next thing is the Yosemite National Park Journal and photos. There came up an opportunity. I just put it on here to make you all aware of it. I was not planning on having us participate in this because there is no way to directly relate it back to rooms. It does have a really nice viewership. I think the state park to state park is a really good opportunity. So possibly after this, the workshop gets done and they resolve what the brand is going to be, or if it's going to change, then we might want to look at going back in and doing the next issue. But it's a lot of money, so I would recommend right now we just forego this issue, let the city get through this Plan Morro Bay section and figure out what they're going to do, logo, tag, and use our money really wisely, and then go back in after that.
Yeah, 'cause my understanding from that promotion we did in the spring of the Yosemite to Morro Bay is it was not a lot of takers, it was not a successful campaign.
You know, I don't know if you can say it's a lot of takers or not. There's no way to effectively analyze it. That's the problem with it. It's just there's no way to do it. It's a really great visual piece. So.
Okay. Thank you.
So the next thing that is on my list to talk to you about is Roger Brooks. And they're going to play a short little video for you about him. I don't know if you're aware of who he is or not. He's very well known in the tourism industry, and he's renowned for bringing businesses and residents and tourism together in communities that are really struggling to figure out how you work together and keep a good community for residents and keep the tourism also growing strong. This was something that was put in place before I was here. It's not a tourism financed event, just so you know. This I'm not sure, but I believe this came up through Sam Taylor. Before I was only here one day before he left, so I'm not exactly sure, but I've been asked to help with it, which is what I'm doing, and I'm thrilled that he's coming. I mean, it is a huge opportunity for us. Day one, he's going to be here speaking outreach lecture style to anybody that can come. Day two is just a 2.5-hour session, and it's more breakout small groups, and I'm hoping we can get as many hotels and as many businesses involved as we can. So anything you guys can do to help with that, I would really appreciate it. I'm going to just play like 5 minutes of this video so you can kind of see what he's about.
So you must narrow your focus as a community. Narrow your focus. You cannot market everything you have. You have to market what's different. And so, avoid these words and phrases. That's what I thought. How many of you are already in deep guano? You know, I was speaking in Wisconsin. We had 1,400 people in the audience. One of the biggest tourism conferences in the country. And a woman jumped up while I was doing this list, and she started waving her hands. I stopped everything. Yes, ma'am. She goes, Roger, I think we're using all of those. Explore, discover our outdoor recreation, which is unlike anywhere else. We have so much to see and do in our four-season destination where we bring the seasons to life. But you know what? Look at that list. By the way, the word gateway is somewhere you pass through to go somewhere else. Could that list apply to any city or town in Georgia or Florida or Tennessee or any state around you? That's the problem. You know, as a matter of fact, this is my assistant, Becky. I've been preaching this for so long that we finally made a poster called Jettison the Generic. If you want me, I will send you 3 or 4 of these posters. You can come up afterwards, grab a business card, and if I run out of business cards, you can email me, and I will send you some, no charge, because I need you to give this poster to your marketing agencies, to your chambers of commerce, to your economic development organization, to your city, because this stuff doesn't work. It doesn't work. Go pick up Southern Living out there, any of those magazines. Look at other community ads. And I'll bet they say, explore, discover, visit our town, those words and phrases. It doesn't work. Competition has never been more fierce. I mean, here's the economic development dudes battling it out. You know, what does it come to? And so these days, you must narrow your focus. You cannot be all things to all people and win. You must jettison the generic. If you Google, if there's 3 words I want you to take away from this conference, it's jettison the generic. If you Google jettison the generic, you're going to see like 3 pages of me there. But here's the point. I'm going to read something to you. Discover the wide open spaces, gracious people, and picturesque landscapes that characterizes Viola just 2 hours from you. So now, I want you to imagine a little town. You may say, what do you mean that's 2 hours from me? If there's a little, just imagine that there is. Imagine this town is 2 hours from you. Each season holds the promise of a new adventure and an incredible memory. Come join us in Viola and discover the scenic and recreational opportunities that await you. Having read that, how many of you, if this was 2 hours from you, would make that drive for it specifically? Raise your hands. No one. You're a mean bunch. But you know what? Is there anything in that you can't get or do closer to home? See what I mean? That's the problem. By the way, that wasn't written for a town called Viola. It was written for a town called Nelson, British Columbia. Here's the point. If I go to your brochures, I go to your website, I look at your visitor's guide, and I can take out the name of your community and plug in somebody else's and it still rings true, you just lost a sale. Now you know why 97% of your marketing is ineffective. You must jettison the generic. So I want you to look at your taglines, look at your logos, look at your brochures, your website, read your introductory text, and if it can fit anyone, I want you to toss it and start over. So, you know, I always say if this was easy, everyone would be doing it. You cannot be all things to all people. You need to promote what your unique selling proposition is. That USP has been around for ages, but in tourism we tend to ignore it. Remember, we have the world at our fingertips. So, find your niche and promote it like crazy. And I know what you're thinking. Here it is. But we have so much more than that. If we narrow our focus, people are going to only know us for that one thing. Well, duh. It puts you on the map. Think about it. Where's Graceland? Come on. Memphis. Do you think there's more to do in Memphis than Graceland? I've had people say, no. There is. But that's what they're known for. What are you known for? What puts you on the map? You know, and then I can hear, but we'll be leaving somebody out. This is where memberships kill this. You must narrow your focus. And there's a lot of my members don't agree with that niche we chose when you do try to narrow your focus. There's no excuses. You must jettison the generic. So, the narrower your focus, the stronger your success will be. You know what? Even Westin Hotels, they coined the heavenly beds. You know what? Westin Hotels now makes more money selling heavenly bedding than they do on hotel stays. Everybody's looking for their point of differentiation, whether it's a B&B, whether it's a hotel, whether it's a community. I mean, look at this. Holiday Inn Express is saying we have the #1 guest-rated showerhead. Quite frankly, I'd take the heavenly beds. But you know what? We're looking for points of differentiation. I'll give you another example. This is Ventana Inn on the Central California coast, Big Sur area. 1/3 of their clientele were families with kids. You know what they did? They had to remodel their hotel because it was in all that salt air and everything. They spent $3 million remodeling the Ventana Inn, and they got rid of 1/3 of their clients. You cannot stay there if you're under 21. So how would you like to spend $3 million, get rid of 1/3 of your clients, and then run ads like that say, no kids, be kids? You know what happened? Within 1 year, their occupancy tripled. The average overnight stay is more than $500 a night, and they run at 90+ occupancy year-round. They paid that $3 million back in a year and a half. Find your niche. Narrow your market. This is St. Albert up in Alberta. I just want to give you an example. They're kind of a bedroom community to Edmonton, which has 1 million people. Population about 60,000. They're known as the highest taxes in Alberta. They want to be more than just a bedroom community, you know, but that's what they're known for. That's not their slogan, that brand. That's just what they're known for. They decided to go with a botanic arts city. You know, gardening's the second fastest growing hobby in the U.S. and in Canada. They created this. Their tagline is cultivate life. But it was the whole cultivate thing. Because they decided to go for botanic arts, a local nursery built a place called the Enjoy Center. It is the nicest. That includes your brother.
Just kind of a little teaser.
You turn on a TV and we're all just mesmerized sitting here quietly.
I was only going to show you 5 minutes. We got up to 8 minutes. I'm like, oh.
A sippy cup of apple juice and just watch the whole thing.
He's pretty awesome.
I bet you do. I like it, and just what he was saying right there, I think immediately starts distilling down into these brand choices and so forth. And this is a large decision. If we're going to put in this effort, it seems like it should be considered with experts like him to help guide the process.
Absolutely, and I think he mentioned the memberships are a problem. You know, when you're trying to appease everybody.
I think we're all
We've got
thinking
a
that.
lot of memberships, so hopefully, if we can get a good audience in front of him, it'll help us get that focus down.
I follow you. It starts the conversation off on the right foot.
Yeah, and one of the things we're doing is we are starting Thursday the 27th early so that businesses can get here. I know we have a lot of owner-operator businesses, so we're starting at 8 so they can at least get to the first 2 hours, and city is paying for lunch, so that's pretty cool. So, yeah.
This is
they
all
want it
day?
to work.
Jen, I'm sorry.
You know, it should end by 2.
Okay.
Yeah,
8
at
to
the
2?
latest. Mhm.
Okay.
And is it here, or are you going to send?
It's here in the Vets Hall.
Okay,
And we will send something out probably this afternoon or tomorrow.
perfect.
Great. Thank you.
Last thing I have, did anybody else have any questions on Mr. Brooks?
Nope.
No? Bring your staff. Charlie, bring your staff. It's good for everybody to learn, okay?
We'll bring the team.
Yeah. So last thing I would just wanted to talk about real briefly, the website, we're trying to, make more changes. It's something that's hot on my list of constantly trying to better it. One of the challenges that we're having is the company that site is built with has proprietary information, and so we're having a hard time getting them to give open back end to other companies to do the SEO. So that's one of the challenges we're having right now with that company, but hopefully it's close to getting resolved. We're working with the president to try to see what we can do to get us access. Okay? That's all I have for you guys. Anything else?
Okay, so we're done with the marketing update. Point 5, is that correct?
Yep, we're done with all that.
All right, then we will move on to a declaration of any future agenda items or announcements. I would like to take the first one here. If any of you go out to your local newsstand and pick up a copy of Slow Life magazine, I did not bring it with me today, forgive me, I forgot. Our Taylor Newton, he is on the cover of it, great story about him, tremendous amount of coverage. He is the centerfold, so a lot of people have been seeing your face around town. Good work, Taylor.
Nice.
You deserve big accolades for that. So, I have a few agenda items I'd like to declare. I don't want to cut anybody off, though, if they have thoughts. Can I go ahead? Okay. A few things that we'd like to see as we move forward. Now, we know it's been a few months since we have reviewed and approved as a board the previous meeting minutes, so I want all to know we are well aware of that. We're just reconciling them, compiling them, and at the next meeting, we will look back and approve the last 3 months of meeting minutes, so that has not been forgotten. Next thing on the list here, in addition to meeting minutes, at the end of all the agendas, we would like to include the meeting minutes for the Visit San Luis Obispo County meetings, which will always be about 3 weeks prior to this meeting. We'll attach that. Seeing as how I'm on the board, I will review those meeting minutes very briefly, kind of hit some of the highlights so members of the Morro Bay community, we're all stakeholders, we're all constituents in this process, will know what's happening at a county level. And of course, since the meeting minutes are attached, it can spur any brief dialogue we wish to have. And it can also be opened up, therefore, to public comment for the community to ask any questions what's happening at a county level. And also, so all of you are aware, Visit San Luis Obispo County meetings are always on the third Wednesday of every month. They rotate locations around the county to not be biased to any one town. The next meeting is actually next Wednesday at the Holiday Inn Express, I want to say, in Atascadero. Open to the public, all can attend. So we'll have the meeting minutes for Visit San Luis Obispo County in there. And then lastly, another thing I would like to see on all agendas moving forward is a TOT report. I think it's very prudent. John Solo brought up some very good points about that as well, but it's been on all of our minds. Within the TOT report attached, we should have a year-over-year comparison and a trailing 12. And if possible, I don't want to ask too much, it'd be nice if maybe there's a visual or something that could be put up on the board here to really emphasize the importance of what that is. All this work we're doing essentially is to drive rate and occupancy, and if that's represented on this TOT report, it gives us the most immediate snapshot. Hey, we're up, hey, we're down, and then it can be a catalyst for good conversation. Those are the only things I would like to request for future agenda items. Taylor?
Yeah, I'd like us to, at some point, maybe not next meeting, but at some point, I'd like for us to discuss how can the TBID as an advisory board somehow develop interaction with the hoteliers. Either interaction between them or interaction with all of us, or maybe, I don't know, but it's been something we've been talking about since I joined this board, and I'm now the longest standing member on the board. And we have to do something about it. I mean, for them to put, as I think John said, $900,000, or I don't know where you got. $750. Yeah, for any business to put that amount of money into something in America, they should be well represented. That is our American way. And we need to have that happen. Somehow we need to develop this interaction with the hoteliers so that we know them and that they have an opportunity to talk to each other and be social, like you were saying. And I don't know what that is, but I'd like to see some ideas on how we could develop that.
Good thought. Thank you, Taylor. That's a very good thought, actually. And we do empathize. A lot of the local hoteliers, they are wholesome American businesses where they have to be there, and they can't just disappear for 2 hours to attend our meetings. And I do realize that's challenging. We're excited that they are, televised for you to stay up on it. Send us emails if you can of your thoughts. If you go on the morrowbay.org, .gov. The city's website, you can find us on there as board members as well. You can email us all directly if you want to be represented. We're just part of the community as well, trying to basically cascade your votes and your thoughts. We're doing our best up here, but we always welcome as much input as possible. Maggie, do you have anything you'd like to add to future agenda items?
Yeah, it came up earlier, and again, I'm not quite sure how to approach this, but the vacation rental thing came up and how that should be handled. As an advisory board, would it be appropriate for us to have that as a topic to discuss as to whether or not we want them included? And then would we be making a recommendation to the city council to change that? How would that go about getting changed? Who would finally say, yes, now RV parks and...
So that is a phenomenal question. It's when you're talking about the homestays, which is the Airbnbs and so forth. Is that what you're really addressing?
And vacation rentals.
And vacation rentals. Okay.
And it was brought up RV parks that do not pay into this additional 3% that the hoteliers do.
Yet they're all benefiting from these marketing efforts that we all do up here. That is, let's put that on the future agenda items. I know we talk about it frequently. I think it's time to really drill down into that. Now that we have several good years of the TBID data here, we can start showing the analytics to them and say that, look, our return on investment is X. We put this much into advertising. We've now recovered those costs and made profit on it. So if those other amenities were willing to contribute to the fund, we could all increase revenue across the board, and they would see a return on investment as well. But that would be a self-assessment. The city council has to go through the process, and then eventually, my understanding is the people have to vote it upon themselves. So that would be a grassroots campaign and an awareness campaign. Yeah. I love it.
And that's what I'm saying is, is it even appropriate for us to discuss that as a board and what would it look like? Would we discuss it, all agree, yes, we'd like to submit that and have the city then move forward with evaluating that?
It has to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, maybe the way to do it is to have Scott Graham from Community Development come in and talk to us from his side what they are doing as far as how they're trying to move this forward. Because I think we need to hear what they're doing and where their position is before we can go in and give an evaluation.
Well said. Taylor?
I just wanted to point out what Chuck Davison said about how all of these entities, including even an existing hostel in San Luis Obispo, all pay into the county one. So they're already doing it. We're just asking the ones that are in Morro Bay to possibly do it here, which makes a lot of sense. So it's already happened. They're not virgins to this.
Right.
Okay, I'll see if I can get him to come in and, is that okay? A good way to start that? Let's kind of hear what they're doing.
If you could just grab the mic for 5 minutes, just informally, just tell us what they're up to, what
Great
their thoughts are on the issue, and then we can figure out how to move forward. Because I know I've been now involved here with the TBID for 8-9 months, and that's come up since the day my first time.
It's a great idea.
Okay.
I'm going to put it on as agenda item so that he definitely has to come.
It's an agenda item.
Okay.
Charlie? I don't have any future agenda item, but one of the things I'd like to see in the marketing report I'm not sure whether you'd call it a clipping service, but I'd like to see all the articles that have been generated, blogs that have been generated, and actually see them. You know, I hear, hey, we got this, we got an article, we got this, but I want to actually see that. Where were we? Where did we get placement? Where's the editorial? And, you know, if there's blogs that are out there, you know, I'd love to see those too. It could just be, I think that Mental Marketing has that information. They just need to get it so they can show us.
We actually have it, and I've asked the city to start putting it on their website under our document center, because it's like a 100-page document.
It's a lot, yeah.
So I didn't want to put it on this. They actually gave it to me for this, and I made a decision not to do that. But I thought if we had it up there, that way any of the hotels could access it, would be a nice place to have it.
Very good. Are there any future agenda items or declarations? Seeing none, we'll close that session. All right. Now, we will then be adjourning this meeting and immediately rolling into a special meeting next. So it is 11:05 a.m. The standard session of the Tourism Business Improvement District meeting has been adjourned. Thank you, Charlie, for the gavel. All right.